Okay guys, I'm going to go over a quick demo on the high poly UVs for your character. Now, because we're doing a high poly character, we don't have to be as efficient with UVs as we do on a low poly character. But the reason why we're being less efficient is because we're getting bigger shells sewn together instead of worrying quite as much about the empty space. So it doesn't mean you can just do it sloppily, you're just going to be doing it differently. So this is the final result character. I'm going to actually, when I UV this for you, do it a little bit differently because it's not going to include the neck area and shoulder area on yours. But here's how I have the face broken down. Again, I'm trying to have as few seams as possible versus as little blank space as possible. So for the seams here, I'm breaking it apart in less obtrusive areas. So under the chin, around the ear. The ears tend to be pretty complicated and kind of get smushed in a weird way. And then this is the face, the top of the skull, and the back of the skull. And then the sides are kind of opened up like this. Now you don't have to do it the exact same way, but you cannot stack for this one, except for things like eyes. And then what we're going to do is we're going to break it apart and bring it into Mudbox, and I will also do a short demo in a second video about bringing up the paint for the character in Mudbox. So we're going to go back a couple steps here, since this one's already technically done, to give you guys an idea of how you can break it down. Now again, I'm going to delete this area right here, the clavicle and part of the throat and part of the back, because you're not going to be including that. But I do have some other things here, so it's a little hard to tell what's going on. I've got the eyes, I have a little black slice in the back of the eyes to create a darker looking pupil. I have eyelashes. I have the actual eyeballs. There's inner nostrils over here, inside of mouth, etc. So we're going to get it all in one UV sheet. You're most likely going to want to send it into Mudbox, but we're going to break it apart before we send it into Mudbox as a second file. To make it easier to work on there. And then we should go back and forth between Photoshop and Mudbox, not just work exclusively in each one. So to get started on this, as I said, you guys are doing a slightly smaller model, so I'm going to go ahead and eliminate a portion of my UVs. And so we're starting off fairly. There's a couple things I can start by doing. I can do a mesh separate, just so I don't have to worry about getting some of these little pieces right now. We can get to those in a few minutes. And so we're all starting at 0. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to hit Create UV, Automatic Map, and I will put on just Lambert 1. So Lambert 1. Okay, so now this is what we're starting with. Whole bunch of nothing. Okay, and I'm going to use the UV techniques specific to Maya 2015. You can use bonus tools and you can use classic style UV editing, but for this one I'm actually going to go ahead and use the paintbrush and the Maya 2015 style UV system. So there's a PDF about it in the portal, of course, so if you don't remember how to do it, go ahead and pull that up. I also included a video made by Method J that includes both the 2015 style and the bonus tool style. Okay, so I'm going to grab the paintbrush tool here, similar to Mudbox. I can hold down B to get bigger and smaller brushes. So I'm going to try to grab a large portion of a shell. I'm not going to get the entire shell, but I'm going to get the flattest area on a shell. So we're going to use the planer tool and grab just just from one angle, maybe over here. It automatically adds the selection, and it works on surface, not on volume, so I'm not getting the back polygons. I'm gonna scrub through here, here, be a little bit messy. So since I have the eyeball separated, I don't have to worry about catching that in there. Then of course Control will remove from selection. going to grab a little more than I want because it's just easier for me to pick out the few extra ones. So that looks about right to me. Look along the curve. So I've got a bit of the jawline here. Double check what I have. Looks good. Back to the UV texture editor. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to, while I'm in face mode, I'm going to shift right mouse button, and I'm going to hit planar map. And I'm going to get a fairly decent start here. So let's go ahead and turn that on so you can see what's going on. We'll worry about distortion grid a little bit later, but you can already see that that's coming out pretty flat. Go ahead and not maximize that. So now what I'm going to do, let me take it off so you can see what's going on. I'm going to start removing some of the stuff out of this I don't want. So I have a part of the inner mouth and I have part of the inner nostrils. So I will just use traditional UVs here. I'm going to go in, I'm going to grab edge. I'm going to grab I'm double clicking, but the way I have it made, it's not necessarily going to grab the entire edge loop. And now that I said that, it did. So I'll go here, cut, so that will be separate. Same thing on the inside of the mouth. Have the entire edge loop there. Looks good. Cut. Remember, you can work back and forth on the two views, do whichever one is the easiest for you to work with. And I will pick shell. I might have to zoom in a lot further there. There we go. Put that over here for now. Put that over here. From here, looks like we need to do it on the eyes too. Edge. So since we use this specific way to create our models, all the edge loops are falling in the right places and it's a little easier to dice up. I want this part to be fleshy colored, so I'm going to grab an edge loop just one further in. We might have to do a little X-ray here. I can also hide parts of my model if the eyes get too much in my way, or use isolate select. Looks good. Let's grab. Check it real fast. Looks good. Okay. Again, cut in the UV editor. Pick shell, which it's very nice they finally put on the menu. Pull that to the side. Now don't forget, we still have to go back and readdress these. We're not just like, hey, we're gonna leave it on the side and not do anything with it. There. At this point, I can just grab everything and control click on the big piece instead of having to worry about being so precise. There we go. Then I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to grab this entire shell. I'm going to control click to change my components, the UV marking menu, to vertex to, I'm lying to you. Let's try that again. To UV, and then now if I do a shift menu again, I can pick smooth UV tool. I'm going to grab unfold. So relax will do stuff too, but it doesn't really benefit you. I'm going to grab unfold. I'm just holding down my left mouse button, and then I'm going to pull it out. Okay. Now this is one of those judgment calls. There's going to always be a little bit of distortion. We want as little distortion as possible. I have quite a bit on the mouth here. I can go ahead and pull individual UVs. So I'm going to hit W to turn off that tool and separate them out, which usually is my preference because I don't want there to be a seam between the lips and the mouth. But I'm not going to be able to paint as much detail in because the UVs are going to be compressed. So there's going to be less texture resolution space on them. So I'll go ahead and pull this out a little bit. I really should be doing this in one. It's a little easier for me to see what's going on. Yes, let's try a few edges and see what we get here. Yep. keeps wanting to pull the combined ones, so we're going to go ahead. Let's grab here. So you can tell this is going to take a minute here. Unfold everything. It's a little easier to use the 3D view. So we know this is going to be the top one here. Sometimes it still wants to kind of connect between the midway point there. It's not going to be as friendly about selecting and deselecting UVs. Okay, we're going to go on and do the next part, and then I might pause and finish doing that so you guys don't have to basically watch and wait through the entire thing. So now I'm going to grab the sides of the head. Again, I'm going to go for a planar area, and I'm going to avoid the ears. So actually we can go ahead and do the ears first. I'm just going to grab way too much. We're going to get the ears out of the way. We can switch to side view, turn off the grid. So again, holding control to remove from my selection. And this one I'm actually going to do touch differently. So instead of using the planar, I'm going to go into create UVs, and I'm going to do create UVs based on camera. Okay, this is going to be a multi-step process though. Here are my new UV shells of ears. I don't want them that, they're both flattened completely on top of each other. However, I don't want them flattened in that exact way. So I want them mostly flattened that way, but I want to cut them in half so the front and the back aren't overlapping. So I will grab there, and I'm going to duplicate the same cuts on the back side. Looks like there might be some funkiness on the model. There we go. Let's make sure we have the last one there, just because I don't want to go back and do it if we don't. There we go. Again, cut. Okay. So now we should have for our two ears 4 separate shells for the front and the back. So I can pick that up there, that up there, that up there, and there. For these, I'm going to also go ahead. I'm going to switch to UV, UV. I have an extra tool in there. Smooth UV tool, unfold. Same thing here, UV, unfold, unfold, and one more time. Okay, this one came out pretty much perfect. This one, not so much. Now, I'm going to admit right here, I really like how this one came out. Not so much this one. I can keep fiddling with this one. Or, and again, I don't want you guys stacking UVs, but there are some cases where it's like, that's just not great. What we could do, so I'm going to go ahead and make sure I'm only getting the ears here. I'm going to delete it. So it's deleted off the model. Then I'm going to pick up these ears right here. Now we're hoping I use symmetry, because there's a possibility I didn't when I did this. Oops, we got the wrong back of the ear. Oh no, okay. I'm going to delete here. I'm going to take this one. And I'm going to delete, which one's the ugly one here? It's not really getting anything good out of that. Okay. So let's delete this entire ear on this side. Okay. Got kind of some funky little pieces left there. Double check here. Make sure it looks like it matches. We have some extras. Delete those. Edit, duplicate special, option box. So this is X, Y, and Z. We do -1 in the scale. Duplicate special. We're going to have to go ahead and remove it off. We'll do duplicate face wherever it is now. This. So much for a shortcut. You're looking for duplicate face. There it is. It's actually right there on my bar. But duplicate face. Center pivot. Duplicate special. And now if we particularly liked the UVs for this side, we can go ahead. We have a tiny bit of overlap we'll remove real fast. And assuming I did use symmetry, again, I'm not quite sure if I did when I made this model. This one's from a couple years ago. I should have it match pretty much perfectly. And then we'll do the back of the ear as well. So 1, 2. Mesh combine. Vertices. Merge components are a little too far for the default merge component distance. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to kind of peek in here. And I'm going to do merge to center. So I have it on my shelf right here, but it is now going to be under edit mesh merge components to center. Okay, I can just do this G, G, G. Now you guys can UV each half as you make it, but you have to actually separate them so they're not stacked. So you don't want to flip them and then sew them together with their partner. Okay. X-ray, and then we can grab the back of the ear and do the same thing. So I'm actually selecting it off of the UV texture editor. Okay, and I'm just going to use shortcuts now. So I've got a duplicate face. Control-Shift-D is duplicate special. Delete the old one, grab the new one. Mesh combine. X-ray mode. A little harder to see what's going on here. Vertex, merge to center. G to repeat tool. Make sure you're, especially with merge to center, make sure you're grabbing only what you actually want to merge. So now essentially the ears are done. We're going to do a few more pieces together. So now I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to go back to face, and I have the face right here. I'm going to start getting some of the side parts. So we're going to do, I'm going to double check, I'm going to look at my UV texture editor to make sure I'm not getting something I don't want. So I'm basically double checking I'm not getting the shell here. So if I go too far, I'll start bleeding onto it. So another reason to do the ear first, actually, is if I accidentally get some faces on the ear here, I can just deselect them in that menu. So. I'm actually going to include this on the bottom half. So I want this to be essentially flat. Too far over here. Okay. It's the same thing. We're going to go back in our UV texture editor. We're going to kind of view our selection. Remember, if you deselect like I just did, you can hit Control-Z to get it back. So we're going to be on face mode. We're going to hold Shift. We're going to right click. We're going to pick planar map. We're going to pick this up, move it over. Then we are going to do 2 UV, or we're going to go 2 UVs. And then we're going to do Shift again, smooth the UV tool, unfold. Okay, other side. I'll pull off those extra ones in a minute. I'm going to get this about where we did on the other side. I'm going to go in here in the UV texture editor, hold Control, deselect, hold Control, deselect, hold Control, deselect. Looks good. Not grab that one. Okay, same thing again. Shift, planar map, move it over. 2 UV, 2 UV, Shift, smooth tool, unfold, ta-da. Okay. So now what we're doing is we're getting on the top of the skull, same thing. We're going to get kind of a flat area. We're going to double check in here. So regular tool, make sure we don't have anything we selected we don't want. Apparently we didn't do the side the same. I went close there. Okay. Shift select planar map, move it over. 2 UV, 2 UV, Shift smooth UV, unfold. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue working around. I'm going to get the back of the skull, and then I'm going to show you how we're going to sew it together. So I'm going to stop recording for a minute so we don't have to watch me do this for another 15 minutes. Okay? Okay, here. I'm at a point where I can actually show you useful things again. Now, I have some of my bigger shells. I went ahead and tweaked the eyes and the mouth to be less overlapping. I'll go ahead and fix up the little tiny bit after a second unfold. I have the top of the inside of the mouth. I have the bottom of the inside of the mouth. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm using Isolate Select using my faces here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab some of my faces over here. I'll just use Shift. Maybe I have to zoom in a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna grab Shift here. Okay, now you can see everything that's already done on my big shells is highlighted. I'm gonna zoom out. I'm gonna hold Shift to invert my selection And now I'm going to use Isolate Select right over here with a little green dotted line. And now I can get a really good idea of what I have left to do in this mess. So we're going to do the nostrils again. Nostrils are something you want to add some paint on it, but I'm not overly concerned about how beautiful they are. But we're still going to use the same kind of techniques we've been using. Same thing with eye sockets. And then we're going to find these little loose bits and reattach them to their parent pieces. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull off, I think, this one here, and this one here. I'm going to cut, and I'm going to attach down here and see if I like it better. A little bit of distortion. We can see that popped up right now. We'll look at the checker and distortion grids in a few minutes. Let's see, same thing. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to hide these now that we've put them in a new location. So Isolate Select on and off. I'm going to grab these and I'm just going to try and experiment. I'm feeling a little bit lazy. Let's see what Maya will give us by default on these. So it's a little more curved than I normally suggest for a planar map, but it's not bad. We can go ahead and see what the unfold function does for us. So we're going to go ahead, Control to UV to UV, Shift, Smooth, Unfold. We can work with that. So we're going to leave that one there. So there's the chin. So now you can see we don't have quite as an intimidating pile of stuff going on here. So I'm going to select shell. Come on, shell. There we go. Move this out of the way. And then I'm going to resize these a little bit later to make sure everything looks good. That's probably an eye socket. Let's see what we can do. So now we have that done. Again, let's look at what we need to. The nose is kind of a weird one. Let's do an eye first. Again, we're going to just see what Maya gives us by default. Planar map might be workable. To UV, Shift, Smooth, Unfold. Let's see what Relax does. Ooh, definitely not what we want. Okay. So this is the inside of the eyes. I'm going to look and see what part that is. If it's the very back of the eye socket, then I'm not overly worried about it. I do want a little bit of color on it. It looks like that's the inside. I think best practice is we shouldn't have any weird wrinkly parts like that, so we're just not going to. No matter how tempting it is, because we're not really going to see it. I'm not going to overly worry about it though, because it is, you know, the inside of the eye. But did we not cut that off completely? Okay, we have a little weird wrinkly part there too, so I might actually just go ahead and do this. I'm going to pull off all these little pieces I have right now. W, grab this, grab this, create UVs, automatic mapping. I don't feel like spending forever unfolding it. Let's see what we have here. So that's a little part where it keeps connecting. I'll cut that. I will turn on some shell borders so we can see what's connected to what. It's definitely not the best thing we've ever done. Let's try one more variation. Let's go like this, this, this. Grab these right here. So these are the ones that we're going to incrementally see in the eye socket. Create UVs based on camera. Move it over. It's fine. Let's try this instead. We'll do a couple cuts on the side. Not there, there. Cut. actually on the wrong one now. It's the same thing. I'm going to invert my selection and try to get the faces that haven't been touched here yet. And we'll go through, we'll do another planar map. 2UV, 2UV, smooth, unfold. W to turn off my tool. Cut. For some reason, this has been happening in my home edition of Maya, where when I cut, I get a lot more cut than I was hoping for, especially when I flip. If you find this is happening to you a lot, that when you flip it, try using this flip instead. So flip, let me see. There used to be more menu options too. So shell. There we go. And now it's not cutting it open. I guess this is a new glitch for Maya 2015, lucky ass. Okay, so I'm still on the top and bottom there. I'm gonna go ahead and leave my eyepieces over here. And next thing I'm gonna address, so let's get the nostrils out of the way, they're a little annoying. Let's see what happens if we let Maya try to take care of it for us. So I'm gonna go planar map. We're probably not gonna get sling good. But again, this is the inside of the nose, so I'm not quite as worried as I am about any superficial or external features. Not what we want. Okay, so I'm not going to unfold this one. I'm going to instead go grab some edges. Let's grab here and here. Looks good. Cut. Shell. Shell. Okay, also right here. And what we're going to do is we're going to kind of unroll these. So we're going to have the same problem with flipping this one. We'll try it, but yeah, it cut it apart. So polygons, flip, polygons, flip. Take off shell mode, hit W, edge. Okay, and that one unrolls it all the way, so we can see this edge here and this edge here. So now we'll do quick modification here. Kind of unfold this a little bit, just make sure it doesn't look bad. We don't have too much funkiness going on. Same thing over here and over here. Okay, and then you'll want to do that to the other nostril. Okay, what do we have left? So we're almost out of the little bits. I'm going to go ahead and turn it off for one more second while I go ahead and sew them all together. At this point, for some of the little pieces, I might just do a automatic unwrap just to get them into a bunch of little pieces so I don't have to worry about what's what. But we're 95% of the way done UVing this. So one more break, be right back. Okay, so now we're down to the last little bit. So as you recall at the beginning, we separated our model so we didn't have to worry about some of these littler pieces. Now we're going to deal with those. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to flip my selection, I'm going to do a hide selection. You don't have to do these parts necessarily, but my character apparently doesn't have any teeth, but she does have an upper and lower palate. I would just do, for this, I'm not going to include it in my final model. If you have your character with the mouse slightly open, you are going to include this kind of thing. But for this model, I'm not overly worried about it. I would just include planar maps just like that. But for this model, we're going to go ahead and just kind of remove these. So there's also a tongue, as you can see, complete with little divots. So we're not going to worry about that. But what we do have to worry about are the eyes. So you can stack these. This character does not have them stacked because in the comic she has 2 different color eyes, so it wouldn't make sense. These by default, this is the lenses. They look pretty good. They're right there. I'm going to go ahead though, and I'm going to move these off into space because I'm going to recombine this in a few minutes and do my layout. Then we'll do a quick kind of crash course on mud boxing this kind of item. Same thing with these. If we look in the UV texture editor, that's not very acceptable. However, our defaults should come out pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab face for all of these. I'm going to do planar map, pretty much what we want. UV, UV, same thing over and over. So even with the tutorial on the talking and household interruptions here, this is taking me about an hour total. So for you guys, maybe like 2 to 3 hours, depending on how retentive you get on it. Remember, it is your final. You're going to be spending about 8 hours modeling and 8 hours UV and texturing. 4 hours in class, 4 hours out of class for the week. So let's see. Go ahead, check where we put those. We have some tiny little faces back here. These do serve a purpose, so I'm going to go ahead and pick them up. You might not have made your eye like this. If you look at mine, they actually have a little region inside them. That's to ensure less light bounces around to make the people look actually dark. So I am going to actually pick those up. Yeah, I'll start with this one. This is going to be easy enough. Oops. Assuming you get the right menu. Oh, no love today. Oh, I have an extra one there. Okay. This is where this comes in handy. I'll just do front view. Okay, UV is based on camera. Pull that off. And if I really want, so now I have the little back flat part taken off. It's a little hard to see. Go through. Do the same thing for this one. I'm just going to hit create UVs based on camera because I'm really just looking for a whole bunch of circles. Okay, so that eye's done. I don't know where I put my other eye. Let's go find it. Go into object mode because we separated it. It's the same thing. Lens should be fine, just is. There it is. Okay. Go ahead. I'm going to select it. I'm not going to select it. I'm going to grab behind it. And do the same thing I just did on this side. So actually, since that always adds the selection, let me go ahead and make sure everything's unselected first. There we go. Okay, UV is based on camera. So I'm really just making a whole bunch of circles here. Shift select, get the opposite. Okay, so that should cover everything but eyelashes. Shell. So right here, I actually have little bits of liquid in the eye. These would also need to be UV'd. What I highly recommend doing is to put everything that's supposed to be transparent in the same area in your UV texture editor. So let's see if we can grab the both of them here. There we go. So as you can see here, they still need to be UV'd. I'm going to grab... This won't work quite as well because they are circular, but I'll just do a planar map. Actually, we'll do this. We'll do create UVs, automatic mapping. Grab these. Grab edges so I can zoom in here. Let's hide everything else. Let's put them back on 1 so we can see them a little better. Getting a little funky there. We'll cut the top and bottom off. So this is going to be completely transparent. So again, good practice is to not have crappy UVs that are kind of doing this sort of thing. Admittedly, it won't matter in this case visually because it's just going to be clear. It could end up shining a little funny though, which I wouldn't like either. But I can go ahead and detach these wherever it is they need to be detached. I'll pick up shell and I'll manipulate them a little bit before I reattach them. Ah, no love. Okay. Do that again. Grab this edge, this one, and there's going to be one more somewhere in there. There it is. Maybe those two shouldn't be attached. Okay, so there's my little tear duct. Oh, we have a couple little more pieces. I know this, the way I modeled this, it ends up in a weird triangle in the end, so I'm just going to do what we can here. Okay. Instead of going through and doing this twice, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to grab face. This is actually a separate model. Let's go back here. I'm going to delete my other one. I'm going to do duplicate special, which is Control-Shift-D for me. I'm going to show everything again, reposition it right there. I'm going to go over here, grab my current set of UVs, and now we're actually going to merge everything together. So make sure we can see everything that's going on. Looks lovely. Mesh, combine, quick Control S, hit save. Okay, sewing it back together. Okay, so I already have a couple things sewn on here, so I'm going to find the top of my head. I'm going to make sure I'm not getting more than I want here. Move and sew. I'm going to move this out of the way for a moment. Edge. Move and sew. The neck might need to be broken apart. Yeah. So I'm going to grab, actually we'll grab some of this. We might not get what we want immediately, but we might as well try first. You should be doing this with the grid on, not just guesstimating based on the video, don't forget. Okay, this is the inner palate of the mouth here. Pick that up. Flip. This is the second tear duct that I duplicated. Flip. Shell. Move this out of the way. So the majority of the stuff that actually needs to be attached is already attached here. Yep, so that's part of our nose. Let's go look at the model for this one. You can see where we got cut a little bit while working on the nostrils. I'm using the 2015 grid. It's pretty functional, but kind of hard to look at. Let's throw on some distortion too. Let's work with that first. Let's look at our distortion grid. So we have some pretty major distortion. This will only end up so good. I don't want to overdo it. And part of the reason why, apparently OBS is starting to bog down my computer a little bit. Part of the reason I don't want to unfold it too much is because I'll probably lose that flattening out I did on the eye. Okay, back to shell. I'm going to save because my computer's bogging down. Something is upsetting it. Okay, back to W. My shells are pretty out of scale with each other. Pick everything up. Everything's going to be red now because we're working way tinier than it wants us to. Unfortunately, I haven't found anything for the settings in Maya why it wants the why it wants your shells to be huge. So if you're using the distortion grid, just use it kind of as a guideline. prefer my grid. We're gonna go for my grid. Okay, hyper shade. And part of the reason I'm using my grid is so I have these little lines here to work with. So we're going to start kind of with the biggest, most important piece, which is going to be the main bulk of the face. We can see that the ears are way too big on the UV texture editor here, so we'll take care of that next. Okay, let's grab some ear bits. So this is the back of the ear, this is the front of the ear. As you can see again, huge discrepancy. We can kind of line up our ears with the size of the ear holes on the side. Now it's not going to be 100% accurate. Obviously that's no longer ear shaped, but it gives us a pretty good idea where the ear plugs into the side of the head, how well it's scaled. That looks good. I'm not going to leave them there. Figure out how best to lay out your UVs for you. So I have this as pretty tall. I would actually, for my character that originally had a back, or back between the shoulders as well, I would cut this part off and put it down lower. I actually feel that I want to cut this, and I'm going to make my seam in the middle back here. Now, if I'm making a bald character, this is not a better choice. Okay, you guys are building bald characters because the computers at school can't really handle my procedural hair. You can add poly hair if you'd like, but it's not required for the assignment. Of course, things that aren't required for the assignment and going the extra mile do help you get a better grade as well, so I'll leave that up to you. Follow specs, get a C. You guys all know that now. So I'm going to use this line right here, which frankly is still a lot more room than I need. I'll just put some ears somewhere. And as I said, I want to gather things that need to be transparent and put them all in the same area. That'll make it a little easier, especially if I have to do my transparency, my alpha channel, through Photoshop. So we're going to find the liquid on the eye here. We'll grab those. These definitely needs to be smaller. They don't need anywhere near that much room. If you have eyelashes, you might want to put them down here to help you work out the alpha channel. Eyeballs, I actually like to make really big. There's a lot of really nice detail in eyes that you can add in. That's more around here. Stick some of the kind of not exciting parts of the face, like the inner nostrils. Just kind of put them over here, on their own little spot. The mouth. And again, if I could really see on the inside of the mouth, I would be adding a lot more detail on this. Same thing, just as I had tongue, palate, teeth before. But right now we're just kind of doing a mouth sock. Here's the back of the ears. We'll just kind of put them in here somewhere. It's good to have like things close to each other. Now, sometimes you're going to work in companies that want everything upright, oriented the way they are here, the way they are there. Company dependent, project dependent. There are no absolutes for everything, but just that might be something you want to try as good practice for some of your assignments. Okay, let me put this one here. These are the inner eye sockets, so I ended up just doing an automatic mapping and sewing them together. I found it a lot faster than dealing with some of the shortcuts. And sometimes that is the key to things. Okay, what do I have here? These are the back of the eye. They don't need a lot of space, but I'm just going to make them a little bigger. Okay, look at all this wasted space. Oh, it's terrible. And that is squared off. We will go in. So again, we use the UV grid. You can just position your arrow on here. A little nicer. And that is our UV layout for a high poly character. So let's take a quick look. Pretty smooth again. Always a little bit of distortion that's going to happen. For the ears, there's a lot of distortion as it gets further in. I'm just generally going to darken that via paint. And there you go. So I'm going to make one more video. In that video, I'm going to break this into pieces and bring it into Mudbox and start a painting system. So it won't go quite as long. This was a little more thorough than I intended, especially since we hopped in and out of View a few times. But just to get you guys started and so you don't get lost, because this is your final, so it has to be pretty. Okay? Bye.